April 5th, and our readings are Ruth 1 and 2, Psalm 53 and 61, and 2 Corinthians chapter 5. And just kind of a note as we go through the Word, especially if you haven't done this kind of thing before, as you go through, there are parts that you've never read before, because you've never gone through it all. But there's also parts, like perhaps the book of Ruth, that you've read, you know. And so the temptation sometimes in even those parts is to speed read or just sort of go, oh yeah, I got it, and miss out what God might be speaking to you. Because maybe it's been a few years since you've read in Ruth, for example. And so what I find is these are the chapters that are good to slow down. Because, I know the story of David and Goliath, right? And I know what happens with Ruth and, these different familiar things, but to slow down and allow the Lord to speak to you once again by His Word. Powerful. So let's do that now. Let's go to Ruth chapter 1. And Ruth begins, it's this story of someone making a decision to move. But notice what we don't find. We don't find that this man, Elimelech, calls upon God. We don't see that he's in prayer. He said, Lord, should we do it? Should we move? Are you leading us this direction? He just goes. Now, on the other side, we don't see the Lord saying not to go. Right? And so we're just making observations at this point. You can do with those what you want. But that's kind of some of the things that you can do, is you observe what is happening in the text. Elimelech sees what's happening in Bethlehem, in that area. There's a famine. And so he hears about what's happening elsewhere and decides that's where they should go. And so they move. And he gets wives for his sons, and he dies there. And after 10 years, both of his sons also die. And so his wife, who's now a widow and childless, because both her sons have died, is left with these two Moabite women. And so verse 6 says, she arose with her daughters-in-law to return from the country of Moab. She had heard in the fields of Moab the Lord had visited his people and given them food. She heard it's better back home. God's answering prayer. So she set up from the place where she was with her two daughters-in-law, and they went on the way to return to the land of Judah. But Naomi said to her two daughters-in-law, verse 8, go, return each of you to your mother's house. May the Lord deal kindly with you as you have dealt with the dead and with me. The Lord grant that you may find rest, each of you in the house of her husband. And then she kissed them and lifted up their voices, and they wept. And they said, no, we will return with you to your people. They're like, no, we're with you. But Naomi said, turn back, my daughters. Why will you go with me? Have I yet sons in my womb that they may become your husbands? Like, there's no hope here. Turn back, my daughters, go your way. I'm too old to have a husband. If I should say I have hope, even if I should have a husband this night and should bear sons, would you therefore wait till they were grown? Would you refrain from marrying? No, my daughters, it is exceedingly bitter to me for your sake that the hand of the Lord has gone out against me. Oh, so now we start to get a clue here of her heart towards God. They lifted up their voices and wept again, and Orpah kissed her mother-in-law, but Ruth clung to her. So she said, that's Naomi, verse 15, your sister-in-law has gone back to her people and to her gods. Return after your sister-in-law. Like, go on. And Ruth said, do not urge me to leave you or to return from following you. For where you go, I will go. Where you lodge, I will lodge. Your people shall be my people, and your God, my God. Where you die, I will die, and there will I be buried. May the Lord do so to me, and more also, if anything but death parts me from you. When Naomi saw that she was determined to go with her, she said, no more. And so the book that bears her name comes into fruition here. Because Ruth says, no, I'm with you. I'm changing teams. Your God will be my God. Your people will be my people. Look, there's a lot we don't know about this story, right? All the inner workings of relationships and the Moabites and who they're worshiping and what was her situation and why in particular is she staying. She just was determined to do so. So they get back there, and everyone's like, hey, it's Naomi. And verse 20 says, do not call me Naomi. Call me Mara, for the Almighty has dealt very bitterly with me. I went away full, and the Lord has brought me back empty. Why call me Naomi, when the Lord has testified against me, and the Almighty has brought calamity upon me? So she's not very pleased with the Lord, and kind of inwardly looking at what's happened in her life with scorn and great bitterness. And that's a situation that we could easily find ourselves in if we focus on our situation. We don't focus on the God who's over the situation. We focus on what's happening to me, how I feel, rather than trusting and learning that God's in control and He has a plan. It doesn't mean it's all easy. It means we keep reaching out, keep believing, keep trusting. Till next time, keep growing little by little.